This is Ben Carper. I am a South Carolina native and a native of Greenville County, South Carolina, and a resident of South Carolina Senate District 6 and South Carolina House District 20 and Greenville County Council District 20 as well. If you're tired of the swamp in Columbia or in Greenville County or on the Planning Commission or anywhere else, stop sending the same people down there. This is United Nations Agenda 21, blog number 2. United Nations Agenda 21, blog number 2. There, on the last blog, there were a couple of new words that we learned that are taking place right before your very eyes, leading into the matter of globalism. Agenda 21 was the outgrowth of the Rio de Janeiro climate summit back in 1992, signed by George Herbert Walker Bush and Bush 41, and then again signed by Bill Clinton and also by George W. Bush. The outgrowth of that and the goal of the Rio de Janeiro Climate Summit in 1992, I remember that well. I remember when it was going on and following that. And the document that came out of that was UN Agenda 21. This is a green mask, and it is leading us toward globalism and a rescinding of our constitutional God-given rights. On the last blog, I pointed out to you a new term called communitarianism. Not communism, but communitarianism. Communitarianism. And that is what I want to talk about today. Another word that I introduced to you last time we were together was the word corporatocracy, which is exactly what we are living in. Whenever you go to Columbia and you listen to the debate in the committee meetings, or you go to Greenville County Council and you listen to the debates, or you go to the Planning Commission and you constantly hear about the corporations and the developers and the investors and the quote-unquote stakeholders, the corporate interest in development and the corporate interest in our county, where we are surrendering, the citizen like you and me is surrendering our individual rights and liberties to the corporation. And the corporation, not the Constitution. The corporation is actually running the society now and running the government now. That is a corporatocracy, and I promise it is a new authoritarianism. It is a neo-feudalism. It is a new authoritarianism. Now, on this matter of communitarianism, what is that? What is communitarianism? It's a nice, pleasant sounding word. And if you ask someone, what is that? They would say, well, it's the balancing of the individual's rights against those of the community. And these people pushing this will say, oh yes, Ben Carper has rights, but his rights cannot go beyond the interest of the community. Well, now, as I read the United States Constitution, I soon discover that we are guaranteed rights. We are born with these rights. These are individual rights. They are inalienable rights. And among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, what you and I are watching go on at Greenville County Council with the Greenville County Planning Commission and in Columbia, South Carolina, in the South Carolina House and the South Carolina Senate, is a restricting of these things, these individual rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As these are restricted by a corporatocracy, the corporatocracy wants their rights, and when the citizen speaks up and says, but we don't want that in our county, we don't need that in our county, then life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the individual goes out the window. Now, John Locke, in his writings, said that there was a fourth right, and this is property, the right to property. You and I cannot have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness without being able to own and control personal, private property. Now, I go a step further. I was utterly and entirely, and am still, utterly and entirely against forced vaccinations and you having to be vaccinated against your will, having to wear a mask, having to be locked up in your own home, because you are your own property. You are your own property like I am my own property. Therefore, I should have control over my body. By losing control over my arm to be forced to take a jab, that is a new slavery. By not being able to use my land, that is a new slavery. You cannot have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness without also having the right to own property, and you own your property, which is you. So the execration of slavery was a fundamental element in the original draft of the Declaration of Independence, and yet here we are now going into a neo-slavery. Now, I ask another question quickly. How do I balance individual rights with those of the community? They say, but communitarianism, we've got to balance Ben Carper's rights with the rights of everybody else in Greenville County. Okay, how do I do that? My first question is, how do I define community? Second, I look in the Constitution and I discover that the community has no rights. I discover that the individual has rights. You and I, as individuals, have rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but there is nothing in the Constitution that says the community has any rights. As I read the Constitution, I discover that individuals have rights, and individuals also have responsibilities. But the community as a whole, my question is, how do I define that? What is the community as a whole? Is it a church group? Is it a county? Is it a city? Is it an area in a county? Is it a particular district? Is it a subdivision? How do I define community? And for that matter, how do I define the collective? So here's the problem. Anytime somebody says, but we want sustainable development and we must balance the individual's rights with the community, whenever they use that word balance, understand they are talking about subordinate. We subordinate the right of the individual against the right of the collective. There's your communitarianism, which is the cross-eyed, double-first, freckle-faced cousin of communism, communalism, communal. We have everything as a community, communitarianism. No one owns anything, everybody owns everything, which means that no one owns anything at all. Now, they say, but we found a consensus on this. And again, whenever you consentize the individual's rights with that of the communitarianism or the community or the communalism, you get something different than is guaranteed in the Constitution. Now let me see if I can illustrate this, and I'll be done with this blog today. Now on your table you have two glasses. One of them you have full of good milk. The other you have full of water. So it's very clear. This glass is full of milk. That's easy to understand. This glass is full of water. That's very easy to understand. So now I'm going to go to the kitchen. I'm going to get a big pitcher. And I'm going to set an empty pitcher on the table. So I'm going to balance now. You see, I have to balance individual rights with the rights of the community. So now I'm going to balance the milk with the water. So I pour half of the glass of milk into the pitcher, and I pour half of the glass of water into the pitcher, and I have balanced the one with the other. I put an equal amount of milk and an equal amount of water into the pitcher, and so I ask you, what do I have? Do I have water? No. Do I have milk? No. I have a watery substance, but it's not milk. And I have a watery substance, but it's not water. What is it? Well, it is not what either started out to be. I have destroyed the milk by pouring the water into it. I've destroyed the water by pouring the milk into it. I'm sure on a hot 100-degree day when you've been outside mowing the lawn on your private property that you have a constitutional right to own and control, and you say, oh, I need a big glass of nice water, and your wife brings out to you, or your husband brings out to you, and it's half water and half milk. That would almost make you vomit on a hot 100-degree day when the sweat is pouring out of you and you've been outside mowing. But that is exactly what we get with communitarianism. The attempt to balance your individual rights with the rights of the community. But the problem is I can't define what the community is. Is it my subdivision I live in? Is it my HOA? What is it? Is it the county I live in, or is it a global community of the UN in New York? Is it balancing the sovereignty of the United States with the other nations of the earth? Now, whenever I ask this question, here's what happens. Immediately I say, but you're selfish. You are selfish. You're a radical. I was called that when I ran for the South Carolina Senate. They said, you're too radical. You actually believe the Constitution. You're rootin' tootin' right. I believe the Constitution, and you are rootin' tootin' right. I am opposed to the United Nations, Agenda 21, Agenda 30, communitarianism, globalism. I'm opposed to all of that. Well, you're just a radical. You're selfish because you want to drive your car. Why, we need United Nations Agenda 21 and the sustainable development. And if you don't believe that UN Agenda 21 is alive and well, in Greenville, South Carolina, you listen to the terms that come right out of it. Sustainable development. Well, we're doing this because it's good for the planet. Globalism, global warming, climate change. Why, this is good for everybody's security. That's why you have to lose your constitutional rights every time you get on an airplane. Well, it's for your health. That's why we're going to put an untested vaccine in your arm and make you wear a mask. But we're trying to protect the children. That's why they have the pornographic books in the library to pervert the minds of our children. But we want to limit workplace violence. That's why in these communal areas there is so much violence. Well, we're trying to stop bullying. Well, they certainly bullied me on the television and with the mail-outs when they sent those hit pieces out on me. But we're trying to protect the rights of those in the future. Well, if the rights of those in the future is like Klaus Schwab, you'll own nothing and be happy. And I have a problem with that. See, I work for what I have, and if I don't own it, who does? And Klaus Schwab will say, well, we own it because we are the experts. Now, one other thing I want to give you, and I must stop. The ICLEI, I didn't know what that was for a long time. But that is the method by which the United Nations implements Agenda 21 on the local level. Greenville, the city of Greenville, South Carolina, is a part of the ICLEI. Then you have the COG movement, the Council of Regional Governments, and the United Nations has a plan to divide all the world up into various regions. I think probably 10 regions. And the map is available. You can find the UN map of the United States now. And there will not be state government, it'll be regional government. We already have that now with the COG, Council of Regional Governments now. Now, I've used up enough time. Thank you for hearing me. This has been Carper, and resident of South Carolina Senate District 6. If you're tired of the swamp in Columbia, stop sending the same people down there. Don't listen to what the politicians say. Look at what they do. May God bless you.